everybody, Backyard Bullion here. Now imagine, if you will, that you are at home and of an evening you hear the news that the government is coming to confiscate your gold, your silver, and maybe even your platinum as well. I know, like a lot of stackers out there, if I heard that news, I would be quite distraught at the prospect of losing my hard-earned wealth that I've accumulated in the form of precious metals. And it might seem quite a far-fetched idea to a lot of you out there, but gold confiscation has happened a number of times around the world in the last 100 years. So is it really something that we need to worry about? We're going to talk about that, about what would actually potentially happen in a gold confiscation situation, and also talk about some of the fear-mongering and misunderstandings and also mistruths that are often told by coin dealers and various other coin sellers around there about what potentially might be exempt from gold confiscation. So lots to crack on with today. I want to make it clear though that this video is not financial advice. I'm just a guy who likes to talk about shiny things here on YouTube, so any financial decisions you make are yours and yours alone. I would also love to know your opinion, so please feel free to comment down below in the comment section with your thoughts on gold confiscation and what you might do in that situation. All I ask is you be respectful of mine and other people's opinions, and I'll see you down in the comments for a fun, healthy debate. Now, as I said, gold confiscation has actually happened a number of times over this last 100 years, but probably the most famous or most well-known one being the 1933 gold confiscation, Executive Order 6102, put in by Roosevelt, who banned the hoarding of gold coins, bullion and gold certificates in 1933. Now, this was all to do with controlling the currency and controlling the value of the dollar. And at that time, now this is actually one of the, this is an odd one to say, but if you're going to have your gold confiscated, you want to have it confiscated by a large economy like the United States or the United Kingdom, who can actually pay you for your gold. Because at that time, all citizens who owned in excess of what was allowed had to turn in their gold, and they were then paid $20, I think, and 37 cents per ounce for their gold. Now that seems like an awfully low price considering the price of gold today, and if something like that were to happen in this modern world, one would hope that in a civilized society at least, because let's be honest, if somewhere like the United States, where of course gold and silver ownership is significantly higher than other countries as a percentage anyway, there would be an awful lot of very angry people with a lot of guns, and that's not necessarily a good recipe. So one would hope that in the worst case scenario, if something like that did happen again in, say, the United States, that you would at least be paid for your gold. But of course, nobody really wants that, because this stuff here, this yellow shiny stuff, represents real wealth, and to have fiat currency given to you in exchange is just not necessarily the best thing for a lot of people. So it has happened in the past, and that's one of the most well-known ones. There is, of course, another well-known situation. There are two, actually. There's one in Australia, but I want to talk also about the one in the United Kingdom, which happened in 1966, which was where citizens were banned from owning more than 4 gold coins. You had to have a collector's license to own more than 4 gold coins. And you had to apply for that license. You couldn't just say, I'm a collector and that's why I've got 25 gold coins. You actually had to apply for that and prove that you had a collector's interest and an actual collection to build upon, which I think is quite interesting. Now, of course, all of these, as I said, are around controlling currencies and around the kind of the gold standard era. And by the 1960s into the 1970s, and then of course when it all ended in, I think it was 1979 for the UK, I could be wrong on that, but you know, the world had moved away from the gold standard, and I think it was very quickly realised in this world that even if you were to confiscate all of the gold that you could get your hands on, it would just be a drop in the ocean of what ultimately is national debt and national spending and deficits and all of that, you know, just extra zeros on so many of these huge numbers of debt, and it just isn't going to help. That doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to happen. Of course, if there was a situation where the US was to return to the gold standard, you know, we hear Donald Trump talking a lot about this, and there's a lot of his supporters and a lot of other people out there that also think that this is something that he is likely to do. Personally, I can't see that happening. I've done videos on gold standards before, and I really can't see that happening. I think it would not be a good move in this world economy. But anyway, it could happen, and if it did, it could be that they want to reclaim as much gold as they can to have in the vaults of Fort Knox so that they can actually have a proper gold standard. How much gold they're going to actually accumulate from private individuals is always an interesting question to consider, because the vast majority of gold ownership out there at the moment is done on paper. And even on physical holdings, there's more gold being held by big corporations, the big shakers and movers and shakers in the gold industry, that it just wouldn't necessarily be a big step or a big drop in the ocean. It would just be, I don't know, I think it would just annoy a lot of people, and that's not necessarily the right thing you want as a country. Now, of course, one thing we've talked about there is collectibles. Collectibles seem to be one of the interesting exemptions, and in the United Kingdom you could get a license if you were a collector. Now, one of the mistruths that I've discovered whilst researching for this video, and it's something that's actually quite prevalent out there, and if you do a lot of sort of Google searching on different forums and things like that, you do hear a lot about coin dealers, and there's a lot of articles on various different coin dealer websites that say that various coins would be exempt from gold confiscations, because even in the 1933 executive order from Roosevelt, there were exemptions for rare and collectible coins. Now, back in 1933, one would argue that these particular coins would not have been rare and collectible. They had millions of millions of these type of coins minted every year, so they weren't necessarily very collectible. However, some of the older type of gold American coins, or British gold coins, or European gold coins may well have been classed as collector coins back then. So one would argue, and this is the thing that a lot of coin dealers will say, they say that pre-33 US gold is the way forward because it will be exempt from it will be exempt under the collection clause of any potential executive order on gold confiscation. In my opinion, that's just a downright mistruth, because first of all, if there was a new new executive order, it wouldn't necessarily have that collector's exemption clause. And even if it did, again, I'm just going to argue that these are not deemed as collector items. Yes, they are old coins. They're probably slightly rarer than they were 50, 60 years ago. But at the end of the day, they are not, in my opinion, collector coins. Collector coins are, the Gothic crowns. They're the really, really highly sought after, potentially proofs. Like, you could argue maybe that the big winner of this 2019 year, the reverse proof American Eagle, is a collector's coin. Yes, that's definitely a collector's coin. It's worth way and above of what its metal content is. These are, they have a potential little premium over their spot price, but nowhere near what other types of collector coins might have. So why do these coin dealers even talk about these type of collector coins? It's simple. They have an agenda. They want to push these type of coins out there. They want to sell them at a premium. The idea being is that if you want to buy this instead of, say, I haven't got one of the, I might have it to hand if I can find it. If you've got, say, a choice of what you want to purchase, just rummaging through my coin box here to try and find the American Buffalo that I've got. Oh, I can't find it. Now, one would argue there, if you're going to have a choice of buying a 1 ounce Buffalo or buying one of these, the coin dealer wants you to buy one of these because they'll be at a higher premium, because they've got that protection of the gold exemption collector's item confiscation. It's a load of manure, I think. That's unlikely, staggeringly unlikely, in fact. Now, does that mean that you should just ignore these type of things and collect really expensive rare coins? No, that's a very specialist market, and it's one which I don't think is very likely to yield a lot for a lot of people, especially if it goes into the bulk. So do you collect things that could actually be deemed as a collection in this modern world? So the Queen's Beast series is what we've got out here. And definitely one could make an argument to say that these are collector's coins. They are very sought after. They have premiums above their metal values, certainly the earlier issues anyway. But again, is it really something that you need to focus on? Because these definitely have a lot more risk to them in terms of the purchase price you might buy them for, and then the quick sale at the other end. I don't know. Personally, I'm not a huge warrior of this situation. I don't think gold confiscation is likely in this world, but you never know. Now, that brings me on to not just gold, but silver. A lot of people, and this is again from a lot of the bullion dealers out there, they say that silver will be exempt. It's only gold that countries are after, because silver is an industrial metal, you see. It's not sought after by individuals. Well, that I think is a risky truth to try and spin. I think if there was a situation where there was a calamitous return to a gold standard, or there was a situation of emergency, a massive war, and the government needed to reclaim as much wealth as they can, silver represents a pretty large chunk of wealth. And I think that just saying that it will automatically be exempt is, again, it's not necessarily reflective of what I think will really happen. So that's definitely something to factor in as well, and not something that you should take with, or you should definitely take any advice you get from coin sellers with a pinch of salt with regards to confiscation and silver. It's less likely though, because it is a lot more bulky, and certainly in the coin form. I mean, yes, if they want to confiscate large quantities of silver, it's going to be the 100-ounce bars, it's going to be the 1,000-ounce bars, it's going to be those vaults of silver that you're seeing in specialist places of storage that people will go and the government will raid. So yeah, now in terms of the last part of this video, I want to talk a little bit about that government raids. Is that likely? Let's go back to that original scenario. You're sat at home, you hear the news that the government is going to confiscate gold and silver. Does that mean you're going to get a knock on the door from some government goons and they're going to come in and they're going to take your gold? Well, it's probably quite unlikely. Let's be honest, the amount of gold ownership that there is, certainly in the US, perhaps a little less so in the United Kingdom, but in the US certainly there's a large proportion of gold ownership. So that would be a pretty monumental undertaking, and one would imagine as well there's going to be quite a lot of hostile, very people anxious to defend their gold hoards. And now that's something I want to touch on here. I have seen a lot of comments, on various videos that I've made, people saying, that if the government does come to confiscate my gold, I'm going to fight to the death, I'm going to shoot, and blah, 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 blah. Really? I mean, that's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. It's just money at the end of the day. Other people say they're going to bury their gold, or they do bury their gold so that the government can't find it, they can't confiscate it. But they still know you have it. Whether you like it or not, it's probably fairly common, or it's fairly easy to find out who owns gold in this world. Now, there are, of course, ways that one can protect oneself in terms of gold purchasing, doing things under different thresholds of purchasing limits so it's not reportable. There's definitely arguments to be had for that. Of course, if you're anything more than a sort of an average budget of gold in a year, you're probably likely to fall victim to those reporting standards at some point. In this modern world as well, we basically are buying everything online. So if you buy something online, you're going to probably be paying for it with some form of electronic transfer, whether that be a bank's transfer online, then there's a record in your bank accounts, or whether it's through a debit or credit card, again, there's records of that. Unless you're actually physically handing cash to somebody, there's going to not necessarily be a record. But even in that situation, businesses are required to keep records. And a business that doesn't record all of its cash transactions is just asking for trouble. So there will inevitably be always a record of some form of who's buying gold. So it's very naive to think that you can hide the fact that you've purchased gold at some point or another. And if you've purchased a significant quantity of gold that you want to hang on to in a gold confiscation world, it's probably going to bite you in the backside, if we're being honest. People will know that you've got the gold, the government will know you've got the gold, and they'll be able to prosecute you, fine you, make your life not very pleasant for those nefarious reasons of getting hold of this stuff. So yeah, there's a lot to factor in on that. I haven't even talked about platinum, so I have got these platinum coins out here. Confiscation of platinum is interesting. I'm not sure I think that's less likely perhaps than even silver. There's definitely arguments to be had that it could happen, but I really don't think it is likely. So where do we go from here? Is this something that everybody really needs to worry about? Well, I don't think so. This is, again, could be, hindsight's a wonderful thing. If in 4 years' time we've got a massive gold confiscation issue, this video will look a little bit like it's got egg on its face. However, I really don't think it's something that a lot of people should worry about. I think if you are looking to purchase your gold and your silver and you're being told by some dealers or by people out there that you should buy certain types of coins because they're going to be exempt from gold confiscation, that's probably the biggest lesson that anybody can take from this video and this whole topic, is that it's a very unlikely scenario to happen. And even if it did, these types of coins that might be pumped and sold to you by those dealers would not be exempt. They really wouldn't. They might be, but they are unlikely to be, and that's definitely something to factor in. So buy what you think is right for you. Don't buy what a dealer tells you to buy at a premium because of X reason or Y reason. I really think that's the most important thing. Do your own research, understand as much as you can about the topic. If gold confiscation really is something that's on your radar and that you're really worried about, then I would suggest that you do a lot more research than looking at this video, and maybe talk to some experts out there, some financial planners and experts as well. So lots of interesting things to think about. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions on this subject. Please do let me know down in the comments what you think about the likelihood of gold confiscation actually happening again. I give it probably next to 0%. You can never say zero, but I think it's incredibly unlikely. That said, I'd love to know your opinion, so please comment down below. If you enjoyed today's video and my presentation of this topic, then please do put a thumbs up on this video. It really does help everything through the YouTube algorithm. If you would like to see videos from us in the future, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Notification bell should be around here. If you want to put that on, of course, you'll get notifications when we upload videos. Otherwise, that is it for today. Thank you one and all for watching. I hope you have a fantastic week, and as always, please make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.